So talking about like you played all of these sports and you're active, what was the goals, I guess, to be social, to have, something to do, right? But as you got into high school and things like that, were you set on trying to play at the next level or trying to see how long you could play baseball for? How did everything kind of play out through your high school years?
Yeah, I would actually I guess walk back to middle school to set the background for that story. Is I was probably better at soccer than I was at baseball. And I was playing travel ball and competitive league for each of those. And then I kind of got into high school, and freshman year for high school, soccer, I'm on the JV team, which is to be expected, but I thought that I had played well enough in tryouts to make the varsity team. And then in baseball, we were really, really good that year. I think we had a guy who ended up being a first round draft pick for the Yankees. We had a couple of other guys who ended up getting drafted later in their, careers. They were a few years behind him. And then two or three other guys who were at least getting offers. So there was no shot of me playing that year. But then when that senior class graduated, I knew there was a window for me to come in and start as a sophomore, which came to fruition in the off season. Basically, we play high school ball instead of travel summer like a lot of other states. So I knew that pretty much locked up and I would be a starter. And soccer in Louisiana runs into baseball season. So if you play soccer, you are going to miss some of baseball. And in the fall of my sophomore year, one of the coaches on the soccer team said to me, "We're really looking forward to having you lead the JV team again." And I was in my mind, I'm like, well, you already know that I'm on the JV team again, but you just graduated 6 players. And the grade below me had 3 guys who were D1 soccer players. They were really good, but that still leaves 3 spots available. And you've already pushed me off to the side. So I'm just not going to play. And the thought in my mind was I might come back as a junior or senior and think about it, but I was not going to deal with that because we were a small school. So the varsity team was very, very competitive and took things very serious. And the JV team was the exact opposite. And I just didn't enjoy surrounding myself with, didn't care if we lost 8-0. So all kind of became the focus there.
Got it. That's, unfortunate, but it's interesting how, because that environment too, especially if you have that desire to compete, right? That can be very discouraging, or it's almost like you don't want to put your efforts and your time into that, right? What positions did you play in soccer and baseball?
Soccer was either forward or defense. So I played at a smaller playground that was still a travel team, and that was playing more forward. And then when I got into the more competitive, bigger programs, the need for defensive players, along with my lack of on-ball skill development from being at the smaller playground, just kind of lent itself more towards being in defense. And then in baseball, growing up, I played middle infield, outfield, and pitcher. I got to high school, and the clear path to play was in the outfield because our whole infield was coming back minus first base, which again at 5'4", when you're a sophomore, you're first base. So I played outfield and pitcher, and then the thought process was always that from our head coach that I would move back in, and then it just turned out that we had 2 young guys who were really good up the middle, and they just kind of took over there because when you're at a small school, you just fill the needs and what makes the most sense for the team to be competitive, not necessarily for the player. So I ended up kind of in the outfield and pitching.
Got it. And did you ever go back to play soccer your junior or senior year, or was that it?
No, that was it. I think a lot of that was the culture of the baseball program at my high school very much fit in with my mentality towards sports. And the soccer team was just a little bit different from a cultural perspective. So I recognize like some of the, I don't know, it was a free for all. The lack of respect for the coach, the lack of respect for each other, like that kind of stuff that just didn't sit well with me. And they didn't seem to work very hard away from the season. So, we did in baseball, and that's kind of why I more gravitated to that.
Yes. And we are going to come back to that culture because there's so many things to talk about that and how it influences, what you want to do, what you want to pursue, but also how you train, right? So it sounds like, that competitive nature in you, that's something that really brings out the best in you and helps you to gravitate towards these sports, but also practice and do well in these sports.